This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Grant or Sam today, even though they should be here because it's their job to be a part of the Bax and Grant Sports Show, but they're not. They're gone. They're off celebrating their college break. So I remember my younger days when I was in college and could get away and just fraternize around and do anything I wanted. No, it's part of it. Anyway, it's totally fine. They'll be back tomorrow. Sam will be back on the show tomorrow. Grant will be back on Thursday as the Bax and Grant Sports Show continues to roll on with another exciting edition. A lot of good things to speak with you about today. David Kenyon of Bleacher Report will return to the show. For those of you that have been longing for his fantasy football advice and everything else to just become more knowledgeable about the game of football as a whole, you will finally have the man back in the show, so you can listen to him. He'll be here in our second segment, and then Jada Harris as well of Concordia, Wisconsin hockey team will also be here. She'll be talking about the NWHL. That's right, the National Women's Hockey League. It is a thing. It has been created, and she is going to be here to talk to us about that as well. So you're not going to want to miss either of those segments as we continue to experience some great things happening on the show. And for you soccer lovers, we'll have a little bit of soccer stuff later on, and we'll also be taking a look at our daily poll question as well. So make sure to voice your opinion about that if you haven't already on our social media platforms, which are on Facebook at the Bax and Grant Sports Show, on Twitter at BG Sports Show. I am at Baxter Colburn. Grant is at Grant's Rant BGSS, and Sam is Samuel_Wallace2. For those of you that love listening to us, we appreciate your listenership. Remember, you can get us right here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. Good morning to all of you watching on Periscope. Great to see all of you this morning. We also are on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time and on Live 365 and TuneIn and on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com as well this morning. So thanks all again for tuning in. A lot of fun things to get moving on to today, but first off, let's start off with a little recap of Monday Night Football, a game that was a divisional game that should have been probably much more contested than it was. A 27-7 trouncing by the Eagles over the Giants last night. I think Eli Manning and Sam Bradford were in a contest to see who could throw 3 interceptions first. Sam ultimately ended up winning that battle, even though his team still found a way to win. I'm a little confused by it, in total honesty, because you look at this game, you look at the scoreline, and if you didn't look at the stats at all, you'd be like, wow, okay, Philly just dominated this game. And then you go back and you look, you're like, well, what exactly happened? You're like, well, Sam Bradford must have had a pretty good game. You know, his team won, 27-7. Well, Sam Bradford had 24 of 38 for 280 yards. Okay, not awful. Only 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. He posted a 61.3 quarterback rating and technically a 31.9 quarterback rating overall. It was just atrocious from him on that regards. DeMarco Murray, though, finally got over 100 yards, 22 carries on 109 yards, 1 touchdown, averaged 5 yards a carry. Kind of resembled the old DeMarco Murray of old. So if you are an Eagles fan that's been sitting at home saying, hey, he'll be fine, we'll be fine, he's going to finally figure it out, sure enough, he finally got his act together last night and looked like a good, solid running back that so many folks were in love with last year. I mean, the receiving aspect, though, for Philly last night was a little... Well, it was a typical Philly receiving effort. I mean, Sam Bradford spread the ball around really well last night. He found 8 different receivers, which is totally fine. But then you look at Riley Cooper, who is great for that one random touchdown every 17 games, it sounds like. He's good for one game where he goes for, over 60 to 70 receiving yards, catches a touchdown. Then everybody and their mother freaks out. It's like, go to the waiver wire on fantasy football, claim Riley Cooper. No, don't do that. Don't do that. But guys, there's so many better people out there that you can grab. However, Riley Cooper did lead all Eagle receivers last night with 3 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown. So that's great if you are an Eagles fan and love Riley Cooper. You have to make mention about the fact that Jordan Matthews, the Eagles' second-year guy, had 6 catches for 59 yards last night. Looked fairly good. Had a few drops, though, which was not good at all. He had a fumble last night that he lost as well. 3 total fumbles from the Eagles team last night. They only lost 1 of them. If the Giants had 2 fumbles last night, they recovered 1 of them as well. Both quarterbacks fumbled last night, and it just wasn't a good game overall. If you're looking for a Monday night game, you think of some top teams that are going to be battling it out, that are going to just be so gung-ho about life that they're like, hey, we're going to kick some butt and, show the world just how great we are. And last night, it just was not the greatest, unfortunately. And some of you might be okay with that. If you are an Eagles fan, you're saying, hey, Chip Kelly, we got our act together. We're back on our winning ways. We're 3-3. We're 2-1 at home. We're looking like a great Eagles team. We're on a 2-game win streak. Well, sure, but I just have a hard time getting behind the Eagles, honestly, because the fact that their quarterback threw 3 picks in a game, and now the next 3 games for Philly down the stretch, you look at they go to Carolina, they go to Dallas, and they're home versus Miami. I know Dallas is a little different right now, obviously, because they're Tony Romo-less, but Carolina's looking pretty good, honestly. I mean, sure, they're 5-0. I'm not completely sold on really any of the undefeated teams right now, but I still feel that with where this Carolina team is headed, that they are going to cause some serious problems down the line, and I think that this game against Philly next week, I like Carolina in that game, honestly. Philly is doing everything they can in their power. They're technically on top of the division right now. They're tied with the Giants, even though they've got the tiebreaker over the Giants right now. But look at the NFC East. It's just a hot mess. I mean, 3-3, 3-3, 2-3, 2-4. I swear, if one team just sneezes, they'll all of a sudden just find themselves on top of the division. It's kind of like the NFC South last year in terms of just the overall poor quality of play. And I was speaking with David Kenyon last night on the phone during the game, prepping for his segment today, and he had the game on in the background, and we were just talking about different things that he was going to speak about on the show, and then suddenly he just stopped talking, and I was like, oh, what happened? And he was like, I'm sorry, I got distracted just by how terrible Eli's playing right now. And I was like, well, did the Manning brothers get switched? Because honestly, Eli and Peyton, I feel like, are looking for their doppelgangers somewhere, or their real versions of themselves, because neither of these Manning brothers have played good this year at all, and it's kind of tarnishing the Manning name this season. It's a little unfortunate. So Eli last night, his stat line, 24 of 38, only 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He was sacked 3 times last night. Rashad Jennings, the leading running back for the Giants last night, he had 13 carries for 63 yards. I've never been a huge Rashad Jennings fan, honestly. I think that it's great that the Giants have found a young back that can produce for them. I don't feel like Rashad Jennings is the type of guy that I want to trust my life with and my running game with, but he can make things happen if you need to. Odell Beckham Jr. got the game started right away. He had the only touchdown for the Giants. He had 7 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. Despite rumors that he might be injured or not, he came right out and said, hey, I'm looking good, feeling good, and showed that right away with a diving touchdown that he scored right off the bat. So where do you go from here if you are the Giants or if you're the Eagles? Well, we already talked about it. The Eagles take on the Panthers going forward. That's a game where Carolina should win that game. Giants take on the Cowboys next weekend, and America's Game of the Week, I'm sure, is what Fox will call it because the game is on Fox. But I don't know how many people are going to tune into a Eagles-Cowboys game on national TV at 3:30 when both teams are just playing pretty bad football, honestly. I mean, the game is home for Philly. It's a rivalry game, so there's going to be some feuding. There's going to be some fighting on the field potentially, hopefully not too badly. But in this game, it's hard to even tell who I would pick in this game. More than likely, I'd take the Giants because Dallas has just kind of gone from bad to worse, really, just with how their season has gone. And they're excited to get Tony Romo back when he's finally healthy again, and I'm sure Des Bryant as well. But we'll see if Matt Castle's the answer next week when he takes on the Giants. He was named the starter last week, so we'll see what he can do with his first official start going against the Giants that traditionally have a decent defense, but have just kind of struggled this season as well. So there's a lot of different viewpoints of what we can do in terms of how to diagnose these upcoming games. But truth be told, though, I think the Eagles will lose their game next week to the Panthers, and I think that the Giants will find a way to beat the Cowboys on national television. So check that out. Let us know your thoughts about the game, and we will make sure to let you know what our predictions are as well when we do our predictions on our Friday show of the Backs and Grant Sports Show. So we're going to go to a break. When we come back, David Kenyon's going to be here. You're not going to want to miss it. If you've got fantasy football advice, now's the time to ask it. Tweet at it at BG Sports Show, at Baxter Colburn. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Grant or Sam today. Both are off, but Sam will be back tomorrow. Grant will be back Thursday, and we can get back to the normal craziness that is the Bax and Grant Sports Show in a fairly timely manner. So you're not going to want to miss that. Quick reminder, as I said before in the beginning of the show, you can get us live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope from 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time. You can also get us on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central as well. All right, well, it's Tuesday, and it's been about 2 weeks too long, honestly, since I've had the chance to speak with David Kenyon. But he is finally back. We've got him here on the show. Fantasy Football World is back and in the great state of mind now that we have him back. So, David, good morning, sir. It's been far too long.
Yeah, it's been a little weird, but things happen.
Exactly, yeah. The technological issues were an issue, but we've got it figured out, and we've got you here now. So we're thrilled to have you back. So we're looking forward to the insight that you have for us this upcoming week. So why don't you give us a little bit of a thought, give us your thoughts on the week that was in fantasy football?
Well, the highest scorer of the week was someone that I didn't necessarily expect, but considering his history against the team, it wasn't totally surprising. But Matthew Stafford really showed out with 405 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he even ran for 37, which, I mean, you don't get used to that, but it was a pretty interesting sign, or just a development, not really a sign. Phillip Rivers, 500 yards against the Packers. That was quite the show he put on, and a goal line stand to end that game. That was just a really fun one to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Luck, the panic, is a little less after that one. He put up 27 points. He did throw the ball 50 times, and against other teams, he probably won't throw as much. But it was a good sign for people like Grant who had Andrew Luck, and that's what you got him for. Was the exactly. 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, 35 rushing yards. Otherwise, Martavis Bryant, 137 yards and 2 touchdowns in his first game of the season, despite Ben Roethlisberger not being in the game. So if you drafted him late, because I'm sure you could get him late after his suspension, he really paid off for you in the long run if you put him in the lineup. And I can't blame you if you didn't, because that Pittsburgh offense is kind of a little bit of a mess without Ben Roethlisberger in there.
Are you buying into the Landry Jones hype going into this next weekend?
I don't know what hype there is necessarily. I'll take him over Michael Vick, seeing how Vick played for 3-4 weeks. He was terrible, honestly. And the one touchdown he had to Marcus Wheaton last week, there was the big talk about, like, Ben Roethlisberger drew that play up. Really, it wasn't even that great of a play.
Yeah.
Wheaton just got loose on the outside, went
deep. He did his job.
And Vic threw one up. I could make that throw.
Well, we all know that you're very capable of throwing a bomb down the field when being blindsided by a linebacker, so I understand that.
You just launch it.
Yeah, exactly.
But, not to take away from Vic, he did win that game for him with his legs eventually. But, he just looks so bad, and they can't get their top option, Antonio Brown, involved. So you just never know where those yards and touchdowns are going to come from. You'd figure Le'Veon Bell is the favorite for most of the touchdowns, at least until Ben Roethlisberger returns. I don't think he got in there this week, but he's going to get a lot of looks. Otherwise, the surprise of the week was probably Ben Watson, the New Orleans tight end. I kind of saw a touchdown coming and about 50 yards. I didn't expect 10 catches under 27 yards. So that was quite the show from the veteran. I'm kind of going back and forth. I'm working on that in my head right now of, do you want to trust him? Do you want to pick him up? I think he might be worth stashing on your bench. He's got touchdowns in 2 straight weeks.
Sure. And
he's gone to at least 30 yards in 4 straight.
Yeah, that's something that's hard to determine going forward because of the short success that he's had, and I'm sure in the fantasy world you want to look for longevity and consistency. But It's not a bad idea considering now that Drew Brees and the Saints have kind of showed their hand saying, well, we don't really have many people else to throw the ball to, so if Ben's healthy, we're probably going to throw him the ball.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of, do you have space? Do you have someone who you know you're not going to put in, but you just hadn't used to that point because, well, I guess he's better than what there was. That's the kind of time that you put in Watson. He does have a favorable schedule, playing in the NFC South, especially during the playoffs week. If you're gutsy there, you get the Bucs, the Lions, and the Jaguars.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
That's something to pay attention to, for sure.
Absolutely. All right, now I need to ask your opinion about Chris Ivory of the Jets. We saw him drop 25 points this last week. Ivory has been consistently dangerous, I feel like, the season as a whole. He's had 3 games over 20 points, but then he's also had 2 games where he's only gotten 0 and 5. And then is Chris Ivory one of those guys that if you drafted him that you're feeling like you were the smartest guy in the room at that point, or what is your viewpoint from a fantasy perspective of Chris Ivory going forward?
Yeah, I definitely like Chris Ivory as a running back 2 securely. A borderline 1. He did have that injury that kept him out against the Eagles.
Yep.
And it affected him against the Colts. So I really look at the Colts game as an outlier. He still did run for 57 yards on 4 yards a carry. So it's still a very good game for a running back. And I want to see how he does against the Patriots, because the Patriots play so much better at home.
Yeah.
And defensively, at least, their offense is great wherever. But if Ivory can put a little bit of a hurting on the Patriots, then I really like him as a number 1, especially because he gets the Raiders and the Jaguars the weeks after that, and he still has the Texans and the Giants and the Titans and Cowboys on the schedule. So I really do like Ivory. He was one of my sleepers earlier in the season just because of the volume that they plan to give Ivory and take the pressure off of Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's played pretty well for most of the season. And I as an aside, I don't see Geno Smith getting that job back.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that one. I think one thing that's been bothering a lot of folks, myself included, is the lack of production from the Manning brothers. What words of encouragement do you have for those that were really excited to get Peyton or Eli on their team this year and just haven't had any production really come from either of them? Both of them have had one really good week where, they've gone for over 25 to 20. I mean, they've gone both over 20 points at least once this season, but neither guy going forward really looks like a great option. Is there a lesser of two evil for either of them?
Well, Peyton just isn't there anymore. It's not the Peyton that we know, and that it was one thing. If you did a little bit of research, you probably ran into that. Hopefully, you took that advice. Where Peyton, he's not going to throw 40 passes anymore. He can't really handle that consistently because he just doesn't have that arm in him anymore. And if he does throw 40 passes, he's definitely going to throw an interception or two.
Yeah.
And they have such trouble scoring in the red zone right now that I don't know where the touchdowns are going to come from. I'm a little more comfortable with Eli, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, honestly, yeah, it's still confusing to me where you look at both of their performances just throughout the season, and Peyton is the one that's sitting on the undefeated team, but you kind of have to take the rose-colored glasses off for a second and be like, well, let's be honest, it's all because of the defense. Like, I don't feel like Peyton has done a lot this season to really say that it's him. He's the reason, that's the word I'm looking for, that he's the reason that Denver's completely undefeated.
Right, and I don't think he will. I'm not concerned that Peyton's going to say anything like that he's responsible for it. I think Eli, on the other hand, he just plays so much better at home that he's a shoo-in to your lineup at home.
Yep.
And I was even sweating it last night. I had Eli. I only needed 4 points from him, and he threw 2 interceptions, so the points keep going negative, and It's like, okay, buddy, just get like another point for me so I can
just complete a pass, honestly, at that point.
Survive another interception from you. But,
seriously. It was just an interception fest last night. My gosh. Okay,
it was tough.
It was a tough game to watch. Another question for you. We saw coming into this week of NFL action, the Green Bay Packers defense, they looked hot. They looked like a great play in most fantasy. And then Phillip Rivers decides to go for over 500 yards on them. Is this the true Green Bay Packers defense from a fantasy perspective, or do owners not want to freak out too badly going forward?
Well, there's a bit of a hyperbole probably involved with week-to-week things, but the Packers, I mean, this is what we expected, but we didn't expect it at this level, obviously, giving up or more than 500 yards passing. It's crazy. But, I mean, you look at the encouraging sign where they held every running back below 3 yards a carry, I think. I'm pretty sure. I know Woodhead had 7 carries for 8 yards. Melvin Gordon didn't play well again. Shocker.
Wait, Melvin Gordon's in the NFL? Oh, I can't forget about that.
But, so the run defense, is all right again. San Diego's offensive line isn't that great. And like, oh, well, the offensive line isn't great. Well, why did Rivers throw for that much? Well, quick release does a lot for you.
Absolutely.
Rivers has a weird release, but it's still quick sometimes.
I honestly forgot how awkward his throwing motion is until I watched that game on Sunday. I thought there was honestly something wrong with his shoulder until somebody that was watching the game was like, no, that's how he's thrown the ball for pretty much his entire career. I was like, that just looks painful.
Yeah, he kind of shot puts it.
Yeah. But hey, if you can shot put for 500 yards, keep shot putting away, Phillip.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is San Diego just has so many weapons, and Rivers has such a total command of the offense this year that he's one of the probably top 8 quarterbacks right now. And just this season alone.
Sure.
And so he looks really good, and that's an outlier. You're not going to see someone shred Green Bay like that, but you're certainly going to see something like that moving forward, especially with an improved rush defense. Teams are going to throw for 300 yards on them because that's what they have to do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that one. All right, well, David, looking ahead to this upcoming week of action, we've got a few different teams on buys. What players are you expecting a big week from, and what players should people consider either not starting or not assuming that there's going to be a lot of big production coming from them?
Well, one person I like, one person I thought I liked until I saw the other team play this week was Arian Foster. I thought he was going to do pretty well against that Miami Dolphins defense, and then interim coach, and Miami looked pretty good. Really good, actually. So
yeah, I was a little surprised by that, honestly.
I think the volume that Foster gets, I mean, you're not going to take him out of your lineup, that's for sure. But I thought he was due for a big week. I think he'll just have a solid week again. Otherwise, you look at matchups around the league, and you like Atlanta, Tennessee. I think Julio Jones gets back to his big performances. Doug Martin, I wonder if Washington can recover from Chris Ivory just gashing them, because they were a top rushing defense, really, all season, but then Ivory goes for 150 and a touchdown.
Yeah, he looked really good.
And then Ben Roethlisberger, I just wish he'd come back, because Kansas City...
I think a lot of fantasy owners wish that he would come back.
Yeah, that's for sure. But Kansas City is just not playing tremendously well right now, and I think Roethlisberger would have his way with that defense. But you're going to put in Bryant after that big week, and you can hardly take Brown out of your lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, just all the teams that you wish would have big, explosive games, I don't think that's going to happen. I do like the Giants next week. They do play at home again against a mediocre Cowboys defense, so I like Odell Beckham to go off. I think Eli bounces back. Philadelphia at Carolina, I think Greg Olsen has another big game. That Philadelphia defense definitely can be exposed.
Yeah, we saw that lots of times last night.
Yep, and Giants just didn't play well enough to exploit it most of the night. But, I mean, otherwise, you look at your stars, you're putting them in. Big-time sleepers, they've probably emerged by now, and if you have somebody like that go off, like a Tavon Austin or something like that for the Rams against the Browns, well, I guess that's just kind of like the bold prediction side of you, because you're not really going to find many surprises or waiver wire pickups that just become stars at this point. Like C.J. Anderson did that last year, but somebody will emerge, but that's just pure conjecture, and I'm not confident enough to say that someone else is going to do that for your team right now.
Understandable. All right. Well, hey, Kenny, we appreciate your time today, sir. We always look forward to your insights. We will speak with you again on Thursday, but before we let you go, where can the good people find your work and you on social media?
They can find me on Bleacher Report. I do college football and daily fantasy football on the site there. I also work for Sportsnaut and Air Alamo, a couple different sites, and you can find me on Twitter at Kenyon19_BR, KENYON 19_BR.
Fantastic. Well, always a pleasure, sir. We look forward to speaking with you again on Thursday.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll be right back. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Grant or Sam today. Both are off, but we'll be back this coming week. Sam will be back tomorrow as we have our new edition of the Bax and Grant Sports Show Power Rankings, and Grant will be back on Thursday, so don't miss his rant as well with other exciting information, more than likely about the MLB playoffs. David Kenyon will be back with us. Connor Christensen will be here. We'll be all over the place, honestly, so we've got a lot of great things to talk about on this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so you're not going to want to miss it. All right, well, before we talk about some of the other exciting things in the sports world, specifically in the NFL, we want to take a moment and travel back across the pond and speak with one of our good friends, Simon Mitchell from England. He's done some great work with the show before in the past, talking about the Euro 2016 qualifiers that are going on. We've talked about the Premier League as well with him, as long as the San Diego Chargers as well. Who knew that a guy from Norwich, England would also be a Chargers fan? Anyway, we try not to ask too many questions. Regardless, Simon is not here with us, unfortunately, but he was nice enough to do a little bit of a segment for us for the Euro 2016 qualifiers. So without further ado, Simon Mitchell from Norwich, take it away, sir.
Good morning, everybody. This is Simon all the way from Norwich in the United Kingdom. As promised, I was going to do a Euro 16 qualifying roundup live with Bax and the guys, but unfortunately, due to technical issues, I'm not able to contact the studio. So I've prepared a very quick roundup, recorded it, and stuck it on the leg of a pigeon and flown it across the Atlantic Ocean all the way to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, just for you guys. So what's the big news in the European qualifying? Well, the big news is the big team that's gone down. The Netherlands, Holland, previous winners in 1988. They have been eliminated. They will not be there. They finished 4th in their group behind the Czech Republic, Iceland and Turkey. Turkey, who have now qualified as the best third-placed team, will no longer have to face the playoffs like some of the other teams. Moving down into Table B, Belgium and Wales have qualified. Wales qualifying for their first major tournament since 1958, finishing second in the group after losing to Bosnia and then beating Andorra. In third place in that group was Bosnia, who did beat Wales and beat Cyprus to get through to third place, and they will face a playoff. In Group C, Spain topped the group, clear by 5 points after a shaky start where they lost right at the very start of qualifying. They're going through with Slovakia. The Ukraine managed to get the third place spot from Belarus in 4th. Table D, which was labelled the Group of Death, Germany, Poland, Georgia, Scotland, the Republic of Ireland, has finally been resolved, with the Republic of Ireland actually beating Germany, taking it to the last game. Scotland, unfortunately, knocked out by a last-minute goal by the man of the moment, Robert Lewandowski, which earned Poland a 2-2 draw, which effectively made Scotland out of the running. But after Poland quite comfortably beat the Republic of Ireland, they secured second place, Germany in first, and Ireland have to end up in the qualifying in the playoffs. Going down to Group E, this group was settled months and months ago. England, top, qualified, 10 wins out of 10, a perfect record, conceding just 3 goals in the entire qualifying process. Question over here is, have they peaked too early? Well, we'll wait and see. Switzerland coming in second, clear of Slovenia in third. Moving down to Group F, Northern Ireland, the first ever team from Pot 5 to win a qualifying group and qualifying for their first ever European Championships and their first ever major tournament since 1986. So that's 3 of the home nations through, guaranteed, with the Republic of Ireland still in the playoff. Now, second in the group was Romania. Hungary, who were the best third-place team, suffered a terrible, terrible defeat in the last game of the season against Greece, who have been awful. The 2004 European champions have just been absolutely abject, losing to the likes of the Faroe Islands and Finland on a regular basis. So Northern Ireland, Romania, Hungary in third, Hungary are in the playoffs. Group G, won ages ago by the Austrians, but it was the fight out between Russia and Sweden for the final second place. It was Russia who managed to get second place. Sweden have had to settle for a place in the playoffs. Moving down to Group H again, the winners were quite comfortably decided weeks ago, months ago. It's the Italians. It's Baxter's favourite European team. Italy will be at Euro 16. So will second place Croatia. Despite Norway leading Italy 2-0, they fell apart, lost 3-2. If they'd won, they would have got second place, but they've had to settle for third in the playoffs. And the final qualifying table, Portugal, who lost the first game of this qualifying campaign and then went on this enormous run, winning their last 7 games on the bounce. They have qualified. And guess who's in second? No, it's not the powerhouse of Denmark with Christian Eriksen and Premier League stars such as Thomas Sorensen and Kasper Schmeichel. No, it's not Serbia, again with big name stars like Branislav Ivanovic, Nataja Vidic, Slovan Jovetic, etc. It is Albania. Yeah, with Lorik Cana, who got released by Sunderland a couple of years ago. Albania, yes, Albania have qualified for Euro 2016. So that is the roundup of all the groups. You've got Albania, Portugal, Croatia, Italy, Russia, Austria, Romania, Northern Ireland, Switzerland, England, Poland, Germany, Slovakia, Spain, Wales, Belgium, Iceland, the Czech Republic, and, of course, the hosts, France, will all be there in 2016. Now, there is a playoff. That will be held at the beginning of November. There are 8 teams in the playoffs. They have just recently been seeded, and we're going to get that information very, very shortly. I think it's just happened as I speak. There will be a draw which takes place this Sunday, the 18th of October, where the seeded teams will play the unseeded teams, and we will be able to see the last 4 countries that will qualify for Euro 16. So I will check back in with the guys at the beginning of November, and I will let you know the final 24 teams of Euro 2016. Lots of numbers, early morning in the UK. Anyway, back to you, Bax, back to you, Grant, back to you, Sam, whoever's presenting today. Have a great week, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, you just heard from Simon Mitchell, our European soccer insider. Thanks to Simon for that pre-recorded segment. We're very appreciative of his gracious time and effort that he put into making that sound so professional. So appreciate it, Simon. We are going to go to a break. When we come back, Jada Harris will be here to talk about the NWHL and what that means for women's hockey going forward. We'll be right back. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Grant or Sam today, but if you do want to get a hold of us, you can shoot us a message on Twitter at BG Sports Show. I'm at Baxter Colburn, at Grant's Rant BGSS, and at Samuel_Wallace2. Danny Hoffenstein is our producer on the show today. Danny's done a fabulous job, as he always does with us, so we're glad to have his producing skills in the studio this morning. It just makes my life a billion times easier, and the show run usually a lot more smoothly. So we appreciate Danny for what he does for the show. All right, well, it's time to talk a little bit about hockey. I'm going to do the best I can, even though Grant's not here, because Grant is much more of a hockey guy than I am. But, however, that's why we bring in people that know more about the sport than I do. So Jada Harris is one of our favorite people to bring on the show. She talked about her experience as a women's college hockey player 2 weeks ago on the show, and now she is back again with us. So, Jada, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing really well, honestly. We're glad to have you back on the show. It's been a few weeks, and we're glad to have you back. But we've got you back for an exciting reason, and something that you had mentioned 2 weeks ago when we talked. And I almost feel like I need to call you a prophet for the way that you predicted what happened.
I know. Yeah, I honestly didn't know that. I did know that it was like in the works, but I didn't know that it was going to happen this year. So very cool, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for those of you that don't know, we're talking about the newly formed National Women's Hockey League, the NWHL. Jada, when she came on the show a few weeks ago, I asked her what's one of the things she wanted to see develop for the women's game down the road, and she said that she would love to see a women's professional league here in the States develop in her lifetime. And 2 weeks later, somehow the commissioner must have listened to the show and been like, well, yeah, let's do it now, and launched it. So there are 4 teams, mostly right all on the East Coast. The Boston Pride, the Buffalo Beauts, the Connecticut Whale. I don't know why there's not an S on the end of that, plurals. And then the New York Riveters as well. Jada, are you just not completely beside yourself with this fact that this league has now been formed?
I am very excited, and like I said before, like I didn't know that it was going to necessarily start this year. I know it was like in the works, but Yeah, no, I'm super excited, and it's just an awesome thing for like women's hockey. So,
Now that the fact that this league is formed, there's only 4 teams, and when you start a new league, you want to make sure you do it properly. You don't want to just jump the gun and be like, well, we need 20 teams nationwide. I think the league is doing this properly by saying, hey, we're going to put 4 teams in a hot area for women's hockey on the East Coast, build the game, bring in the biggest stars, and then slowly work our way west, basically.
Yep, I totally agree. Yeah, I think that, like you said, the game is the biggest on the East Coast. And then also I think the game is huge, though, in Minnesota. So, and it's working its way towards Wisconsin. So, if, I feel like the next team or some of the next teams would have to be in Minnesota, just because Minnesota is like the state of hockey. And but again, the traveling would be kind of hard from the East Coast to Minnesota. But like you said, it's kind of a building process. So
yep, absolutely. Yeah, and we know that like we said, there are 4 teams based around that New England, Boston area. Speaking from someone that doesn't know a lot about the women's game as a whole, can you educate the rest of the world on who some of the top stars are in the women's hockey world that are a part of this league? Because if you were to flip it over and say, oh, well, these men's hockey players are going, that might help some people saying, oh, wow, that's awesome. But for those that follow the women's hockey game so closely, who are some of the top ladies that are in this league that are going to draw the most attention?
Yeah, so the first one that comes to my mind is Brianna Decker. She is a phenomenal player. She played for the Olympics this past Olympics, which was in, I believe, Sochi, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, she played for the Olympics. Was a former Badger and is just phenomenal. So Brianna Decker would be one. She plays for, I believe, the Boston Pride.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Then there is another one. Her name is Hillary Knight, who they're both forwards. So Hillary Knight she's very tall, she's big, but she's really good as well. She was a Badger as well. So I'm a little biased because I love Badger players, and like growing up, I just kind of watched Wisconsin hockey. But
and that's what you were exposed to as well, so no one can fault you for that.
Yeah. So Hillary Knight is another one to watch. And then on the Buffalo Beauts, there is the captain for the Olympic team this past year, and her name is Megan Duggan. I think that's how you say her last name. But she's phenomenal as well. So yeah, those would be like the top 3 that I would say to watch for, to look out for. They're phenomenal hockey players. They were all Badgers, but they are phenomenal. So.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, yeah, the season is only two games young. The Boston Pride and Connecticut Whale are both out to 2-0 starts. The Buffalo Beauts and New York Riveters both are 0-2. I have no problem with the names. I think it's kind of cool the way that they picked the names that they did. The one that obviously stood out the most to me was the New York Riveters, with their mascot being, now I can't think of the girl's name, Rosie the Riveter, as their logo.
Yeah.
When you look at these 4 team names, the Whale, the Beauts, the Riveters, the Pride, do you have a special connection with any of those names at all, or one that really sticks out to you?
I really like all of them, but Beauts for me is kind of a cool one because, it's not something that you would think of as like a mascot, being a Beaut, like otherwise known as like a beauty, right? So
yes.
But yeah, I really like that one. That one's kind of cool and unique and different, and you would never really think of it. So
yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that one. So looking forward with this new development for the women's hockey game, what does it mean going forward? Are we going to see a massive just following now of this league? Are people going to just all of a sudden realize that, wow, women's hockey, similar to what the women's soccer game has done in America, is actually maybe better than the men's game? I know that from a league perspective that's hard, but on a national team level, those comparisons are drawn all the time between the men's and women's soccer teams, the men's and women's hockey teams, basketball, etc. Where does this now leave the women's hockey game going forward?
Yeah, I think it's a huge step. I don't think that overnight it's going to be, huge. It's not going to be something that the whole nation, like women's soccer, it's not going to be like a women's soccer game yet in America, but I think that over the next 5-10 years, it could be something like the, women's soccer where it gets tons of publicity, tons of followers. But no, I think that for young girls in America, it's like huge because when I was growing up, there was nothing really that you could necessarily work for. There was not an ultimate goal, and I feel like now the NWHL is something that excuse me, women or young girls can really strive for. And so I think that's like a huge, huge thing because it's just something that girls can kind of dream for. Like before, it was just the Olympics and it was just D1.
Which is so
but now,
hard to get a part of.
And now there's something, there's something different, and you can actually, like get paid for it. Not necessarily as much as probably the women that are in it now want, but it's something, it's something. So
yes, no, I agree with you on that one. And one thing that I've heard a lot too in the different research and topics that I've heard with people discussing about this new league is that these ladies are getting paid for their time, but a lot of them do still need to work another job as well to help pay bills, continue going to school. A lot of these ladies are not. This is, as much as they love the game of hockey, they're unfortunately not being paid enough right now to live solely off of that. But like you mentioned, these ladies are being paid though. They're playing the game they love. They are professionals in their game in a league of their own, and I think that that's just fantastic for the growth of the women's game because, let's be honest, women's sports in America, just worldwide, really don't get a lot of national attention. But since this league has been formed, we've seen features in Sports Illustrated. We've seen them on ESPN. These ladies are going all out. And maybe it's just because America likes hockey. Maybe they like soccer. Maybe. I don't know. I'm still a little iffy on the women's soccer aspect of that. But anyway, that's irrelevant to the conversation. So I want to step aside from the NWHL for a second, Jada, and just check in on you and your college season because you are playing your senior season for the University of Wisconsin-Concordia. Talk a little bit about how your team has done through preseason, if you guys have started off your action, how the team's looking going forward, all of that.
Yeah, so we just actually finished up our first real practice yesterday. Our season started actually yesterday.
Okay.
Preseason, though, was very good. We worked very hard. Preseason is the hardest part of the year, so that was good. There's a lot of new talent, a lot of freshmen who are super talented, so that's really awesome. And so yesterday, practice was good. Our coach seems excited. I'm excited. It's my last year, which is crazy because I've been playing since I was, like I said before, I've been playing since I was 3 years old. So the last 18 years have been dedicated to the game, and it's crazy that it's just, finally the last year, the last round. So,
but now that there's a new league, you might have an opportunity to maybe make. Would you consider a tryout after college?
You know what? I think that this chapter of my life is supposed to end after this year. I really do. And I think that I'm supposed to go on and do something else and finally open up a new chapter of my life. So I'm not opposed to it, but I don't think that it's something that
it's not something that you might be going completely out of your way to travel to Boston or something and be like, I'm going to keep going.
Exactly. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, Jada, we appreciate your time as we always do here on the Bax and Grant Sports Show. And we will be looking forward to hopefully speaking with you again in the future once we check in maybe mid-season with you to see how your college season is going, but also check in and see how the NWHL is going as well. So thanks again for your time, and we look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Thank you. I really appreciate being on the show again.
Anytime. You're always welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, we are going to go to a break. When we come back, who do you think is going to go to the Super Bowl? I know we're only 6 weeks in, but honestly, people have already started to talk about it. So we'll figure that out. We'll be right back. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. No Sam or Grant today. Both are off, but we'll return either tomorrow or Thursday, respectively, depending on who you like to listen to. Sam will be back tomorrow. Grant will be back on Thursday. For those of you that have not heard, Sam Wallace has stepped in as a 3-day-a-week co-host here on the Bax and Grant Sports Show. He'll be finishing out the remainder of the fall semester as our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday co-host with myself. And then Grant will be here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Both of them have a lot of academic commitments with everything going on and other outside life commitments. So we're kind of splitting the co-host duties right now. So you'll always have me, but every day it'll be a new adventure depending on what either Sam or Grant has to bring. So before we take off today, we want to take a moment to thank Jada Harris and David Kenyon as well for taking time to join us on the show today. But also, we want to take a moment to thank all of you that answered our poll question as well that was posted on Twitter at BG Sports Show and on our Facebook page, The Bax and Grant Sports Show. We're 6 weeks into the NFL, and I thought it was necessary to ask the question, after 6 weeks in the NFL, who is your Super Bowl matchup? Because I feel after 6 weeks, folks have a fairly good idea of where their team is going, what is going to happen long term. Is your quarterback good? Are you going to just have a running game? Or is your defense going to be bad? You have a fairly good idea what's going on. So I want to take a moment to look at all of the different answers that we had. So thank you again to all of you that responded. So looking first on Twitter, we had Chris. He said Packers and Patriots. We had Brad on Facebook say the consensus pick would be Green Bay and New England. However, he also made a mention of the Panthers in the NFC as possibility, and he also went as far to say that the Chiefs might have an opportunity to make a dark horse run. Not exactly sure what Chiefs team Brad has been watching, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But Brad is giving the Chiefs a dark horse outside possibility to make a run. Michael on Facebook says the Packers and Patriots. Tim on Facebook says Seahawks always, duh. Well, maybe, but not this year, Tim. So I'm not sure just how closely Tim's been watching his team or if he's been watching Super Bowl season highlights instead of watching regular season games. Regardless of that, David on Facebook says New England is the easy AFC pick at this point, but he said he's not sold on the Packers. He also thinks that Carolina could also be an early home field decider. He said that he's just glad the Seahawks have essentially eliminated themselves, and I feel that most folks are probably happy about that. We also had Corey on Facebook say the Packers and Patriots, but he also could see the Bengals sneaking in as well. So thanks to all of you that responded to our poll question. Remember, on Twitter at BG Sports Show and on Facebook at the Bax and Grant Sports Show. I want to just take a quick moment and look at this as well. In the AFC, let's just be totally honest for a second. Football as a whole this year has just been disgusting. Like, it just hasn't looked that great. Teams that are supposed to be winning are not winning. Teams that shouldn't be winning are, well, still not winning, but a few of them are still finding ways to be just annoying more than consistent. Looking at the AFC, Cincinnati and Denver are both 6-0. Denver don't buy into anything that they're selling right now, honestly, because they don't have the offensive structure to stay consistent and stay dangerous the whole road, regardless of the fact that they're 4-0 on the road, which is just ridiculous. Cincinnati, you wanna cheer for the Bengals because they've tried so hard. Andy Dalton has done such a great job this season and has just never produced in the playoffs. And you want to think that, well, maybe this is the year. Maybe the Bengals could do it. But I just don't know. I'm just not sold on Cincinnati, and that's why I would have to go with either the Patriots or the Jets, honestly. And I know the Jets are a little kind of crazy and outlandish, but they're kind of my dark horse pick right now until Ben Roethlisberger comes back with the Steelers, because I feel like when Big Ben is back, Pittsburgh could arguably be the best offensive team in the AFC and possibly the NFC, or possibly the NFL as a whole when everybody's healthy. In terms of what the picture looks like in the NFC, Green Bay and Carolina are both 6-0. Atlanta and Arizona are 5-1 and 4-2 respectively. Minnesota is technically the fifth best team in the NFC at 3-2. Wow, that's just wow. I did not realize that. Anyway, wow. That's just kind of thrown my whole day off now. I don't even know what to say. Anyway, Green Bay, I guess we saw the way that that they played against San Diego, and they weren't bad. They were not terrible, regardless of the comments that I said on the show yesterday. And I think as long as Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, you've got a great opportunity to make a deep run in the playoffs. I just think I feel like every Packer fan says every year, well, it depends on the defense. And that's really what it comes down to, because the first 5 games of the season, Green Bay looked like the best team in the NFL in terms of overall product. Not necessarily game-by-game product, but overall product. They looked like they looked the best. And then you see them against San Diego. The offense looks sloppy. Rodgers is underthrowing receivers. There's a lot of misrun routes. Eddie Lacy ran for 3 yards. James Starks had the best day. I mean, what? And then the defense forgot how to cover Keenan Allen and the rest of the entire San Diego team. I'm pretty sure the water boy had 10 catches for 150 yards in that game also. It's just, you can't give up 500 yards in week 6 and expect to be a serious Super Bowl contender. That just worries me going forward. But Green Bay more than likely will find a way to emerge from the NFC. The only other team that could make an outside run, I feel like, if Dallas gets healthy, if Dallas can do enough to get to the playoffs once Tony Romo and Dez Bryant are back, then I feel like they've got an opportunity. Atlanta, I need to see what Atlanta does this coming week, because losing to the Saints is worrisome. The fact that you lose to a now 2-4 Saints team, I don't know. I feel like Atlanta's schedule all the way through the remainder of the season is not that great. And maybe they could find an outward way to get in. Arizona is another one that I'm a little concerned about now, especially after them losing to the Landry Jones Steelers. Not exactly sure how that's possible, but anyway, Arizona found a way to do that. So, if I had to go right now, my safe pick would still be Green Bay and New England as well, going to the Super Bowl. So let us know your thoughts. Remember, on Facebook at the Baxter Grant Sports Show, Twitter at BG Sports Show. I am at Baxter Colburn. Grant is at Grant's Rant BGSS, and Sam is Samuel_Wallace2. Thanks again to Bleacher Report's David Kenyon for his fantasy football advice. Simon Mitchell from our British office from doing a Euro 2016 roundup. And from Concordia, Wisconsin, our new NWHL insider, Jada Harris, for her time as well. And to all of you for listening and answering our daily poll question as well. So we will see all of you again tomorrow right here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. And then from 11 to 1 p.m. Central on SportsRadioAmerica.com, live 365, and tune in. Thank you again to our producer, Danny Hoffenstein. I'm Baxter Colburn. We'll see you all again tomorrow. Regular show, Sam Wallace is back in the studio. You're not going to want to miss it. Power rankings and everything else. We'll see you all tomorrow, guys. Have a great one.